Hey guys, welcome to the show. Dan here with this week's TV news and reviews. Sort of a playing catch-up week because over Thanksgiving week, not a whole lot of TV shows came out. So we're going to be talking about a few new shows, and then at the end, we're going to talk about a couple shows that were sort of hyped up that started airing right before we started doing the show, and that's Carnival Row on Amazon Prime and Wu-Tang Clan. An American Saga, is that what it's called? And that's on, and that's on Hulu. So we're going to talk about those two. And then in addition, the Mad About You reboot, Dolly Parton's Heartstrings, and a show called The Feed. So we're going to talk about all those. But first, just a few news items to get to. At the top, I always like to talk about the renewals and cancellations and full season pickups. The only one I saw for this week is the TV show Schooled. That has been picked up for the full second season. And they also fired their showrunner again. This is going to be now their third showrunner that they have. One they had for the first season, then they had another one for like the first half of season 2, and now another showrunner. I mean, as long as the tone of the show stays the same, great. I do find it weird, though, that they keep shuffling showrunners, because I feel like on the Goldbergs, the show that stemmed from, that did not happen. So, but obviously, ABC is trying to build up their more long-term comedy block since they've already lost The Middle. They're losing Modern Family this year, and they're losing Fresh Off the Boat as well, although that, I think, is relegated to Friday nights this season. But still, I mean, that's been on the air for them 6 years, so I think they're trying to build up kind of what they have. I mean, American Housewife has been on for, I think this is season 4, but it's like nobody really talks about that show. You know, I guess it does well enough in the ratings for them, but it's sort of like The Middle, I guess, in that nobody talks about it that much, but enough people watch it to make it worth it. But yeah, so I don't know what their comedy block is going to look like on Wednesday for next year. Because they've sort of had the Tuesday and Wednesday comedy blocks. They've got like the Connors on Tuesday. I'm not sure which night things air. I think Blackish is on Wednesday, and they've of course had that for a long time. Mixed-ish, I think, is on Tuesdays after the Connors. Bless This Mess is in there somewhere. American Housewife is in there somewhere. So, and then Goldbergs and Schooled are on Wednesday, I believe. So obviously, they're trying to, build up that block, and so that's cool. I like the show Schooled. Haven't seen any of the season 2 episodes yet. I'm still working through season 1 on that, but I like what I've seen so far of that. So that's just the quick blurb about that. Tiffany Haddish is at the top of a readers poll to host the Oscars next year, or this coming year, I should say. I mean, that is obviously more a movie thing, but I watch the Oscars every year, and of course it is on TV, and it's one of the biggest TV events of the year still. So she was on The Tonight Show just talking about that recently. I mean, I think she would be a good host. I just don't think she's a big enough name yet. I mean, when you think about the Oscar hosts, the talk show variety, you've got like Ellen has done it, Jon Stewart, David Letterman, they've all done it. And then, more stand-ups, like Chris Rock, and who did it last year? Well, I guess nobody did it this past year because it was supposed to be Kevin Hart, and then the whole controversy thing happened. So, he didn't get to do it. Steve Martin has done it. And then you've got, like, bona fide movie stars, which is like, Hugh Jackman. Not that Steve Martin's not a movie star, but, Hugh Jackman did it the one year, for example. That horrible James Franco, Anne Hathaway year. Seth MacFarlane is kind of like the lowest profile name I feel like that's done it. And people know him, but, I mean, in the movie industry, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he did the Ted movie, but, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's certainly a TV star with, Family Guy, and, I mean, this was before the Orville and stuff, but, a couple other things he had done, but mostly, like, voices, like American Dad and stuff, it was mostly his cartoons, but, yeah, I mean, I think Tiffany Haddish would be a good choice. I think she'd have a lot of fun with it. I don't know if she's a known enough name yet. The poll also included Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart again, which I would, as a gay person, I know, like, there's been some controversy with he said some gay comments like 10 years ago, whatever, in his stand-up routine. Dude, I don't think Kevin Hart's homophobic. Like, come on. If he, was able to host it, that would be cool. I know he had his car accident a few months ago, and I'm not sure, what all the status of his health is, but, that would be fine. Ellen was, of course, on the poll, as always. And there was a fifth name on the poll that I can't remember. But it was somebody that had hosted before. Was it Jon Stewart? I don't remember. But yeah, so there was, a few people on the poll. But Tiffany Haddish actually topped the readers' poll. So, cool. I mean, that would be fun to see. I don't know that she's big enough to host it. She told Jimmy, I don't know how much of a joke this part was, but she told Jimmy that she would host, if somebody did it with her, if Jimmy Fallon did it with her, which I think would be horrible, but I'm not a huge Jimmy Fallon fan, so there you go. So moving right along, Shelley Morrison has passed, who played Rosario the maid on Will and Grace, and she also played opposite Sally Field in the 1960s on The Flying Nun. I mean, she has been at it a long time. She decided not to come back for the Will and Grace reboot when it started a couple of years ago. They asked her, of course, and she said, "You know what? I'm retired from the business. I'm good." So maybe she knew then that she was getting sick and didn't want to do it. I mean, she wasn't, that old. She was 83, so not super old, but obviously senior citizen. Yeah, sorry to see her go. They did a tribute episode to the character because she said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to come back." They took her at her word for that and actually killed the character off and had a nice tribute episode. So of course everybody from the Will and Grace camp, posted on Instagram or Twitter their condolences and their thoughts and stuff. And it's the first death I've really talked about here on the show. The first major death that has impacted a show that has been near and dear to me. So I wanted to give her props. Yeah, really funny. I mean, one of the most I don't know, under the radar characters, because she showed up, here and there. She was supposed to do one episode, and then it turned into like 60 some episodes by the end. And she was just great. She was the only one who could really verbally spar with the Karen character. And then they had the whole, her and Jack get married so she can get a green card, that whole thread. So, she's definitely been a strong part of that show. Since she hasn't been on the last couple of years, I can't say, she'll be missed on the show. But certainly, watching her old episodes, I always love seeing when Rosario comes on. So, there you go. So Shelley Morrison passing away at 83. And then the only other thing I really wanted to talk about is this CBS All Access thing. They're really working to get some kids programming, because right now, what do you know about CBS All Access? You know that they do, Star Trek probably. You may know that they do the new Twilight Zone, The Good Fight, and then of course you can get the latest episodes of all of their primetime and daytime shows. But what about their children's content? They really don't have much by way of that. And, look, I mean, CBS has long been established as, the old person's network. I mean, even when I was a kid, when, Murder, She Wrote was on, and I believe Diagnosis Murder was CBS. They were known as the old person network, When I was young, Fox was the hip network, NBC brought the comedy, and ABC was more of, the family network, with, Home Improvement, Roseanne, and that kind of stuff. So, CBS, no surprise. I mean, they did well on Saturday mornings. I mean, they had a good Saturday morning kids lineup. They had, Muppet Babies and Pee-wee's Playhouse and Garfield and Friends. This is when I was probably about 10 or whatever. So that's the CBS lineup I remember. But when I was real little, I don't remember anything being on CBS. I mean, I'm sure they had cartoons, but it was NBC had all the shows for the little kids. It was the Smurfs, Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Snorks, all that was on NBC. And then ABC had more I don't know, Looney Tunes and stuff like that. But anyway, so CBS has not been known really for its children's programming, so it's no surprise that it has not gone over to the All Access side. But They are Viacom owned, so finally they have struck a deal with another Viacom channel, Nickelodeon. And so they're going to bring a bunch of old Nickelodeon content to All Access, and they're also going to produce new content based on some of the old shows. They're going to make new episodes apparently of Danger Mouse and this Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs show. And both of those are already streaming on the channel. I guess just the original episodes, but they're also bringing things like Bob the Builder, Inspector Gadget, Paddington Bear, and Madeline. I don't know how far this delves into the Nickelodeon catalog. Are they going to bring things like Doug and Rugrats and Real Monsters and Ren and Stimpy and I don't know, all those shows that were on when I was like in college, like Cat Dog and stuff like that. Is that all coming to CBS All Access? I don't know. But obviously, they're probably feeling a little bit of the pressure with Disney Plus having such a vast library of children's programming. And honestly, Netflix does real well with children's programming as well. Hulu has some good choices for kids. Amazon Prime, I'm sure, does too. I don't know about their original content, but I mean, they have so many things in their library that I haven't even delved into. But every so often I'll just be looking for like a DVD of a show, and it'll come up. The DVD will come up, but then it'll be like, watch for free with Amazon Prime. I'm sure there's probably a lot of kids shows that are on that list too. I don't know. So we'll see. But I think it's a smart choice for them. I think they need some kids programming on there. I stream All Access mostly for The Good Fight, if I'm being honest. But then also I really enjoy that comedy they have on there called No Activity with Tim Meadows. That's really funny. And then I watch, if I'm caught up on the current season, I'll watch some of the current season episodes of their primetime shows. But yeah, I don't ever see really like anything on there for children. So I think that's cool that they're going to do that. I would love though to see them do a lot of those like classic Nick shows. First of all, I've been talking about on this channel doing some classic Nick shows and classic Disney Channel shows long before Disney Plus was even announced. I was talking about that like 9 months ago. So, and I actually am scrolling through Real Monsters right now to do a video about that. I have about 10 episodes left of that. I'm watching literally the whole series. But that would be real helpful. I do have a lot of the old Nick shows on DVD, just kind of as a collector. Old Disney shows are a little harder to come by because most of them have not released like full series sets. There's like season sets of some. Some only have like best of, with 6 episodes or whatever on it. I think like Zack and Cody might be one of those. So it's a little more hit or miss with Disney, but Nickelodeon has released full series of a lot of their older shows. So, it'll be interesting to see if that comes to All Access or not. I think it should. I think it would be cool. I think it's interesting that they're redoing Danger Mouse. That was on when I was real little, like 6, 7 years old. They imported that. I don't think that's run in years. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they've done a newer version of Danger Mouse that I just don't know about. But as far as I knew, like the last time they did Danger Mouse was a long, long time ago. So, all right, that's the news portion. Let's move into the reviews. 5 shows to tackle for you today. The first of them is Dolly Parton's Heartstrings. I guess it's just called Heartstrings, but I think it's known because of Dolly Parton being, sort of the host of it, and they're about her song, so I call it Dolly Parton's Heartstrings. But anyway, it's 8 episodes. It is up now on Netflix. You can watch all 8 if you want. I watched the first 2 because it is an anthology series, and I feel like you can't just watch one and really get a good representation because you could just watch a bad one. You would think that they wouldn't put one of the worst ones first. You'd think they would lead with one of their better ones, but you never know. So I watched 2 of them just to get a good base for it. Also, the second episode is about the song Two Doors Down, which I love. And which I actually just discovered it recently from a Tig Notaro routine that I saw live, and it was very funny. But from there, I was like, oh, this is actually a great song. So, and then the first episode's about Jolene. So that is, of course, classic. You want to lead with one of the most classic Dolly Parton songs. So the essential premise of the series is that each episode takes a Dolly Parton song, and I originally thought it was going to be like the story behind the song, kind of. And I guess in a way it a little bit is, but it's more just the song is the basis for the fictionalized story that they're telling. So, they all take place in the present day, so it's not like, Jolene's a 40-year-old song or whatever, so it doesn't take place in the 70s or anything. It takes place now. So, it's definitely fictionalized versions of what the songs are about, kind of thing, rather than what I thought, which is like the inspiration for the songs. But either way, that's the premise, and Dolly Parton appears at the beginning to intro everything, and then I guess she has a part maybe in all of them. Some parts are bigger than others. In the Jolene episode, she was fairly prominent there. She was the boss at the bar and sort of was giving advice, and then she performs a song as well, and then she performs a song in the second episode, which centers around a wedding and all this family drama. And then the Jolene episode's more about Julianne Hough plays Jolene, and she comes to town with all these dreams of being a rock star and whatever, or a country star at least, and then ends up sleeping with this woman's man, and then befriends her best friend, and then she finds out that Jolene slept with her best friend's man, and she's like, oh my god, like, what do I do? Anyway, it's a whole thing, and then she wonders, did Jolene sleep with my man? And then the second one is, like, Melissa Leo stars in it, and it's about, like, this wedding, and this uptight family, and it has a gay son, and there's all these secrets, and so it goes from there. These episodes are very cheesy, corny, Hallmarky. It reminds me a lot of like the Hallmark Christmas movies, that kind of thing. Which, look, there is a market for that clearly. I mean, the Hallmark Channel now does like 20-some new Christmas movies every single year, which is ridiculous and overkill, right? But to the people that love it, they eat it up. They watch these channels, the whole holiday season. So I get it. There's certainly a market for these things, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're good. I have to give the Heartstrings show a little bit of an increase in love because, Dolly Parton's a part of it. She is bubbly. She is great. She's always fun. But, like, for example, Melissa Leo is in the second episode. Oscar-winning Melissa Leo, who's been in so many great movies, and she's got all this talent. Her character here is so, like, corny, run-of-the-mill, and all of the characters are like this. They're written that way, that is what they want to give the audience, so, okay, cool, we'll give it to the audience. I can never fully, I don't think, like, fail anything like this, even, like, the Hallmark movies, like, just because, it's corny and it's, the acting is terrible and this and that. But you know what? It's got a good message. It's got a good heart to it. When I think of like the war shows that are on, I think of things more like the Kardashians and stuff like that, where it's like, Chris Lee Knows Best, like all those reality shows where it's like, there's, to me, just nothing redeeming about them. Here, at least you've got a good message. You've got, I don't want to say strong characters because they're not, but you've got at least defined characters, and it's a feel-good show. I don't think the people making these shows are like, hey, these are the greatest performances we've gotten. I mean, Julianne Hough is not a great actress, but we've seen her in Footloose and some other things. And even she's, like, not that good in this. She's real corny. And again, it's like, it's fine. I get it. It's Julianne Hough. She's not a great actress to begin with. She's okay. But when you see Melissa Leo corny, and cheesy, then it's like, okay, this is written and designed to be this way. It's directed to be this way. You get it. So it's enjoyable enough. I don't think I'll watch any more of the episodes. I think 2 was enough for me. But the messages are great, it's an uplifting, they're all about love, and, maybe empowering women and that kind of thing. So I like that. And of course, it's got Dolly's stamp. So, that's good. I love seeing her at the beginning introing. And she sort of tells the real story behind the song before we get to the fictionalized version. So, so that part's kind of cool because we do get to learn about the history of the song as well for a few minutes. So, Heartstrings is what it is. It's not going to, reinvent the wheel, but it's enjoyable. I give the show a C+. I think if you like the Hallmark stuff, you're going to love it. If you don't, you probably won't. And if you're sort of in the middle like me, like I could take or leave the Hallmark Christmas stuff. I don't watch them, but they don't offend me. It's not like, oh my God, how dare they make 20 Christmas movies? That's crazy. Whatever. It's fine. I mean, I don't watch them. It doesn't affect me, but it doesn't anger me like when I hear that there's a new spin-off of a Kardashian show or something. So there's that. All right, so up next is Mad About You, the reboot. This is now, I guess, season 8. I think in the original broadcast there were 7 seasons. The definition of these shows is always different because sometimes it's like season whatever, and then sometimes it's just like season 1 of the reboot. But this one is odd because it is almost impossible to find. Like, for a show that was so big back in the heyday, it's not on Hulu, it's not on Amazon, it's not on NBC. Which, personally, NBC's hurting for comedy. Like, I'm surprised NBC didn't want it, especially because the one and only reboot they've done, Will and Grace, has done very well for them. But it's on Spectrum Originals. What the hell is Spectrum Originals? Well, I'm only half sure, because it honestly took some scrounging to even be able to find an episode of this show. Spectrum Originals is not available where I am in Pennsylvania, but Spectrum apparently is a cable service, much like Verizon, or I have Comcast, Xfinity here. It's mainly in like the Midwest to the West. But I understand there's a package that you can buy, I think wherever you are. It just won't be on your TV, but you can download it for your computer and for an app where if you pay like X amount a month, I think it's like $45 a month or something. It's ridiculous. But you get, 15, 20 cable channels. I don't know. I barely looked into it because it wasn't available in my area. So it's funny when I see like Paul Reiser going on Ellen or whatever talking about this series. Oh yeah, the Mad About You reboot. Okay, but it's like near impossible to find. So my guess is that they will release it on DVD, and maybe they will release it on something like iTunes or Amazon Prime for purchase, like that kind of thing. Once all the episodes are up, what they're doing is sort of splitting the season into 2. So there was, I think it was 6 episodes up originally, like the week before Thanksgiving, and then at the end of this month, I think it's the 18th, December 18th, they're going to release another 6. So there's going to be 12 episodes total, which, to be honest, is pretty good, for a reboot, because I guess some of the major networks have gotten that. Murphy Brown was like, I think, a 13-episode season. The first Will and Grace, I think, was 13 or 15 maybe. But of course, if it's on Amazon or Hulu or whatever, usually it's 10 episodes, no more. They used to do 13 episodes, like Orange is the New Black, and I think Grace and Frankie still does 13, but all their newer shows seem to do 10 at most. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes it's like 6 or 8. But anyway, if you could find the show, here's what I can say about it. It's in the same vein as the original Mad About You. Like most reboots, it basically takes the same actors in the same basic setting. They're still in their apartment. They've redone it a lot. Obviously, over 20 years, they're going to, do some things differently. So the walls are different, the furniture's different. But for the most part, it's supposed to be the same apartment. It is multi-camera. It's shot in front of a studio audience. So, all the things from the original Mad About You. And you've got most of the cast here. You've got, obviously, Paul Reiser and Helen Hunter back. But then you've also got Richard Kind, who we love. Who else? Well, I don't know. But the guy that plays Ira, Paul's brother, is the same. I don't remember the actor's name, unfortunately. But yeah, so a lot of things are the same, and they're continuing on the sort of thread that they started 20 years ago. They had their baby Mabel a couple of seasons before the end of the run. So Mabel is now 18 and going to college. Kind of like with the Connors, where the timetable doesn't exactly match up, because Mabel would really be about 22 or something now. However, they've been pitching this idea for 2 or 3 years. So I guess maybe at that time it was closer. But whatever, it doesn't much matter. I mean, it's a TV show. So Mabel's off to college here, and so they're sort of struggling with empty nest syndrome. And in the first episode, not very well, as both of them individually go to Mabel's dorm room to kind of, hey, like, you didn't make your bed before you left, kind of thing. So I think the show is funny. I actually just wrapped up watching season 1 of the original Mad About You, just sort of to remind myself. It was not a show that I loved. I mean, I didn't watch it every week, but I did watch a lot of like those first couple seasons because I was still in high school. Once I got to college and it was a little harder to, stay with your favorite shows. Excuse me, I did not stay with that one. So I probably still haven't seen any episodes from the last 4 or 5 years of Mad About You. But first season or two, I watched a good bit back then and just refreshed myself with the first season recently. It definitely got the same feeling, Helen Hunt, I love her. I think she's a great actress. I think she's got a little too much work done, so she looks, a bit different. Paul Reiser looks oddly mostly the same, but I've also seen him a lot more recently. I watched Red Oaks on Hulu, or actually I think that's Amazon Prime. And also he shows up, in movies often. He was Miles Teller's dad in Whiplash, for example. So I've seen him a lot more recently. Helen Hunt is more sporadic with her roles, so I haven't seen her in quite a little while. But I think she's got a little too much work done, which I can't fault an actress for in Hollywood. Certainly, the stigma is there about growing old or whatever, but it does kind of take you out of things. I mean, I think it's why people like Meg Ryan don't really work anymore. She's gotten so much work done that she's, sort of unrecognizable. But the sense of humor is the same. It's still there. I mean, Paul Reiser co-wrote the episode. Helen Hunt directed the episode. So obviously that was part of their contract that, like, hey, we'll do this, but we have to have a part in the behind-the-scenes stuff as well. I believe it's the only episode Helen Hunt is going to direct. All the other directors are up already, at least according to Wikipedia. Joanna Kerns from Growing Pains is going to direct one coming up. But yeah, and then Paul Reiser, this is the only one I think he's written, at least for the first 6. So, obviously they have a hand in it. They know these characters inside and out after playing them for so long. And their chemistry is still there. The chemistry has always been great with them on Mad About You. It continues here. The setup of having your kid go to college and you having the empty nest syndrome, it's not necessarily original, but it is sort of nice to be able to revisit these characters in a new chapter of their lives. I sort of like that aspect of it. Which we sort of got for Murphy Brown, but that went like way too topical, and I did not care for the Murphy Brown reboot. But this I liked. I mean, I never loved Mad About You, so I'm not going to say, like, this is one I'm going to watch. First of all, how can I? I mean, it took me forever to figure out how to find the first episode. But I'm hoping, I mean, if they got like a DVD together of it, or if it popped up on Hulu, I think I would probably watch all 12. In that way. But it's not something I'm going to seek out, and I think being on Spectrum Originals, I don't think it's going to be something other people go and seek out. So I don't know. I mean, if you're a huge Mad About You fan, maybe it's worth checking into. If not, maybe wait until it pops up somewhere else. I don't know if the original runs on cable anywhere, but it's interesting with these reboots, like, do they get added to the syndication packages? I don't know. Like when I was a kid, What's Happening was in syndication, and then they made What's Happening Now, and that did end up getting added to the syndication package. So it was like you'd have 2 months of What's Happening, and then you'd have 2 months of What's Happening Now before it cycled back through. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Will and Grace is still in syndication anywhere. It's probably on cable. That's probably on like Lifetime and Logo still. I don't have cable, so I don't know. But I would imagine that the new episodes do get added to the syndication package. So if Mad About You is still playing somewhere on cable, maybe it gets added to that package, and that's how you can see it. I don't know. But grade-wise, I give Mad About You, the reboot, a B+. I mean, it's pretty much exactly what you'd want from the show, and the chemistry is certainly still there. So bravo for that. Up next is The Feed, and this is on Amazon Prime Video. This is our last real new show that we're going to talk about, and then get into a couple that came out earlier this year. But there are 10 episodes of this up, and Amazon is doing the whole... Well, I don't know. It's hard to tell because this is an import from the UK, and they've all aired in the UK. I think they're all up on Amazon Prime now. I think Amazon mainly does the, hey, let's put them all up at once. But don't quote me on that. I only watched the first episode of this, so I don't know what else is going on in here. But basically, it's like a sci-fi show. It takes place in London, and it's in the not too distant future. So we're talking. I mean, it doesn't say, but maybe like 5 years, maybe 10 years. But basically, everybody has the feed, which is like implanted into your brain, and it lets people share information and stuff that way, and also maybe know other people's thoughts or whatever. But it goes on as like a video screen, like you see in front of you, sort of like that. And there's a lot of things going on at once when you turn it on. And what's happening here, as we see in the first episode, is that the feed, oh no, it has gone awry, and people are starting to kill people. So, oh my gosh, like, what are we, what are we gonna do? It's a premise that is certainly not new. We've seen this, maybe not thousands, but at least hundreds of times in various, shows and movies. Technology gone awry, and people start murdering other people. So it's hardly original. But I think there's some interesting quirks to this one, I guess, because you've got psychiatrists can turn your feed on and off, as we see a couple of people doing in this first episode anyway in the show. This real rich family is the Lawrence family, who has created the feed and is distributing the feed, and they got rich off the feed. So who are the people coming to? They're coming to murder the family. So we see, one of the chefs that they have at this big party, holds a knife to somebody at the party. And I don't recognize anybody in this show except David Thewlis, and he's barely in it. But it stars Michelle Farrelly, Guy Burnett, Nina Toussaint White. These are, I assume, all British actors and actresses, so I don't particularly know them. But, everybody does a fair job. It's fine. The action sequences are decent. I think the little twists that they've made are interesting. I like the way that they showcase the feed. I think visually that's pretty cool. It's sort of like Google Glass, I guess, but more like on the outside parameters. Maybe Google Glass, I don't know. Or maybe it is like Google Glass, and we, the audience, just see it from the outside. I don't know, but it looks to me like if it were me, I would see it like here, not necessarily in my lenses or anything. So I think maybe that's the difference. I don't know, but everybody's game here, acting wise. They're definitely sort of relishing the roles. Are they taking it maybe a little too seriously? It's a serious show, but it's also I don't know. I think it might have been better if they went a little more on the sort of cornier side of things. like some horror movies do. Like some horror movies thrive on sort of being a little more corny, like tongue-in-cheek, like knowingly. This, I think, maybe takes itself a little too seriously. I think it might have been a little more fun or better if it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek about it, especially since they're saying, like, it takes place in the near future. I mean, if this was 50 years from now, okay. But, the fact that they're talking about this, oh, yeah, this might happen in 5 or 10 years, is a little bit, ridiculous. But, I don't know. But it's okay. It definitely held my interest for the pilot. I would probably watch more of this. I don't think it's breaking really any new ground, and we've seen the technology gone wrong thing so many times. There's not that much different here. A little bit. And, as it progresses, maybe it gets different still. I don't know. But, the first episode, anyways, is very, pretty standard. But it was okay, I definitely enjoyed it. Again, I'm not sure if I'll watch the rest or not, but I liked the pilot. So the feed gets a B from me. Okay, up next now we got two older shows that started basically like the week before I started doing the review show. So since there wasn't much else out this week, I decided, let's go back and watch a couple of these. And actually, one of these is a fan request for Carnival Row, and this is another one that is on Amazon. It got picked up for season 2 before season 1 even began, which I always kind of like, to be honest, because it shows that the support of the show is there. And so all of these are up now. I think this went week to week, right? No, okay, so this all went up at the same time, August 30th. Yeah, I think Amazon Prime is one of the ones that just puts everything up at once. But yeah, so they're all up now to watch. I watched the first episode here. And, it's an hour-long show. It's based, I think, on a book, right? It doesn't say, so maybe it's not. Maybe I'm wrong. But it stars Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne. Yes, okay. So it's based on actually not a book, a film script. So this was supposed to be a movie. It's called A Killing on Carnival Row. And so it turned into a show. I don't know if these were the same actors attached to it, if it was going to be a movie, but they decided to make an 8-episode show and then a second season of, I assume, also 8 episodes. So there's like 16 hours of this to watch. And it basically follows a bunch of mythical creatures like Cara Delevingne's character is kind of like a fairy, and basically their homeland is riddled with war, so they decide to flee and gather in the city here, and at the same time there's all these like unresolved murders and stuff going on that they've sort of gone into. They flee their war-torn country, but then here there's other stuff going on. So Cara Delevingne's character, for example, she basically flies away, as she's a fairy, and lands in this town and ends up being a servant for this very, very snooty, let's say, person that has little sympathy for her plight, but a little bit. But she also doesn't really express who she really is. And then her former lover is Orlando Bloom's character, and he also flees. He's an inspector, but he's like kind of half and half. And she thinks he's dead, and all of this. So there's a lot going on here. I only again watched the pilot. I wish, honestly, with you guys, I wish that I could watch, all 8 or 10 episodes of these shows. I just don't have the time, because I'm still catching up on last season's shows. So it's like, I watched the new shows, like 1 or 2 episodes, just so I can review them here, but I'm still like a year behind on my shows, so it's a lot of playing catch-up. I wish I could have watched all 10 episodes of this, just because I think it would have given me a lot more insight into the characters. There's so much going on here that I feel like the first episode is a good, starting point, which is obvious. It's the first episode. It's a stupid statement, but I think it lends itself to intrigue of what's going to happen next. I think we get a good enough sense. They don't overfill the pilot. Like, we really only learn about those two characters more than anybody else. Like, they don't really focus on a lot of other people, like we might find out next in my Wu-Tang review. That they really they build the world well. At least the basics of it. We understand why they're fleeing. We understand who the characters are, at least the main couple. And I honestly, I gotta say, I don't know if I would have watched this as one of the late summer entries had I not been requested to, because it's not really something that's necessarily up my alley. Like I probably would have chosen to watch the Four Weddings and a Funeral show with Mindy Kaling. For one thing, because I love Mindy Kaling. But also, I heard it wasn't very good, so I'm intrigued about that because I want to see where I fall on that. So I might get to that eventually. But when somebody suggested this, it was my buddy Merlin. I thought, you know what? It premiered literally like the week before I started doing the TV news and review show. So makes sense. Why not? Okay, let's watch it. And I actually really liked it. I mean, I think it's something I will continue with. I really like the setup. I like the main characters, even like the woman that Cara Delevingne's character is working for. Yeah, she's a bitch, but I like the way she's written, and the actress does a good job with her. The only thing I would say is there's too much gratuitous nudity. I don't need to see it. Like, it's fine. If I don't know, like we got to this point in like HBO stuff where it's like, and then Netflix and Hulu and Amazon kind of took it to new heights. But it's like, just sort of nudity for nudity's sake, and oh, let's have a sex scene here. Like, I don't know. I still watch a lot of network television, so it honestly still surprises me a little bit when I see all of this nudity. Like, okay, I didn't watch Game of Thrones and stuff, but I mean, I watched Orange Is the New Black, and that had a ton of nudity in it, and and this show has nudity in it and stuff. So it still sort of shocks me a little bit, which I is probably an antiquated way to look at things. I don't know, but there's like 2 nude scenes just in this pilot episode, and it's like, it's fine. And look, we've seen all these people naked anyway. I mean, we saw Orlando Bloom's penis on in the gossip magazines, when he was on that boat with Katy Perry. So like, I've already seen that. That I didn't see here, but maybe episode 2, I don't know. But Cara Delevingne, came from the world of modeling, so we've seen her, at least I have, in various states of undress. So it's not like any of that was necessarily shocking because of the person. It's just like, I don't know that we necessarily needed that 30 seconds of hardcore sex, or whatever. I feel like I watch enough porn in my own life that, if I'm watching TV for a storyline, I don't necessarily need it there. But whatever. So I thought that was a little gratuitous. And because of the dark nature, and I mean lighting wise of the the areas that they're living in, it definitely, like, it could have been, better lit, better sets, maybe. But honestly, I really enjoyed. I was surprised at how much I liked this show, and it's one I believe I will continue with, when I get some more time. So I give Carnival Row a B+. Thought it was quite enjoyable. Up next and final, we've got Wu-Tang and American Saga, and this premiered in September on Hulu, again, like just 1 week before I started doing the show. And Hulu puts them out week by week, but by this point they've all come out. They ended in late October, and it's a 10-episode series. It's billed as a mini-series, so assumingly we don't need more, and that makes sense because it's a biopic about the Wu-Tang Clan, so it's sort of like, like Straight Outta Compton. Like, once we did that, okay, fine, now we know what happened with NWA. So as a music biopic or bio mini series, I guess you could say, I don't think we need a second season. I doubt that we'll get one, as it's billed as a miniseries anyway. So, again, I just watched the first episode here. I probably should have watched, I guess, the first 2, because they did both premiere on the same day. They premiered the first 3, actually, on the same day, sort of taking the Apple Plus model, before Apple Plus was even a thing, I guess, of putting up the first 3 episodes and then week by week after that. Which, by the way, speaking of that model, the one show that I've reviewed here on TV News and Reviews that I've kept up with week by week is the morning show on Apple Plus. Every Friday or Saturday, I watch the new episode. So bravo to them for that, because it is keeping me coming back. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we've got Wu-Tang, and it's essentially, the story of Wu-Tang Clan. It's in New York City, mid to late 80s. Or I guess it starts in the early 80s, and then, I guess by the time they form in episode 10 or whatever, it'll be more later 80s. But, we're working our way out of the crack cocaine ghetto here and trying to focus on music and da-da-da-da-da. So here's my problem with this, is that it moves way too slowly. They could have, I'm sure, done this story in 8 episodes or 6 episodes. I understand there's a lot of members of the Wu-Tang Clan. I get it. And, maybe we'll focus a little more on different characters. Well, they're not characters. They're real people. Different people in each episode. I don't know. But, Straight Outta Compton's my best comparison, because it is about the same type of music. It's the gangster rap sort of thing. In their case, it was L.A. or Compton. In here, it's New York. So, East Coast versus West Coast, but it's basically the same thing. I mean, they both bands came from, drug-addled stories and this and that and the other thing. Straight Outta Compton was like a 2.5-hour movie, and I thought it was great, and they did so much with it. That could have been more. Here, do we need 10 hours of this? No. The first episode moves very slowly. We don't really get to know any of the characters because there's way too many of them. I'm not even sure if all of them end up in the Wu-Tang Clan, or if these are just friends of, the RZA is sort of the main focus of the first episode anyway, or who turns into the RZA, I should say. But it's I don't know if these people surrounding him end up in the Wu-Tang Clan. I don't know if we're seeing Old Dirty Bastard. I don't know if we're seeing, some of these other people. But, we're focusing a little bit on him, and that's fine. It's good, but it's just, it moves so slowly because of that. I think 6 episodes probably would have done justice to the story. Now, I know a few people that have watched this week after week and have said that it does, really get good, around the middle, which makes sense because, if I feel like it should be 6 episodes, you could probably condense the first 3 episodes into one, and save a little time and whatever. So I thought it was not boring. I can't say it was boring. The acting is decent. It's not nearly as good as the acting in Straight Outta Compton. I'm not going to lie. I mean, those guys, listen, I'm just going to say it. That movie got robbed at the Academy Awards. I think it literally could have been up for Best Picture. I mean, it's such a good movie. And it's hard not to compare the two, just because this is a mini-series, but obviously that's kind of a movie. That's a movie. And they're both based, again, on, same time period, same type of music, just different sides of the country. And just that movie did everything better than this does. Too much going on. The acting's fine. It's serviceable, but it's not great. And it just was slow. It moved slowly for my tastes. And this is why I hate basing it just on one episode. If I took the time 10 hours to watch this whole thing, maybe the grade would be differently. So this grade really is just for that first episode. But at the same time, if I had 10 hours to kill, I would watch Carnival Row, because I really enjoyed that. So I leave the Wu-Tang Saga, or what's called Wu-Tang and American Saga, I guess is the full name of it, right? I leave it with a B-. And even that, I think, is generous based on the first episode, but everybody I've talked to said it gets better, so okay, fine. That's the problem. You sort of grade the pilot episode sometimes on a curve, because you know that, okay, this first episode has to establish, 10 different things, all the people and the location and the world building and stuff. But the Carnival Row does it so much better. And obviously I had, some problems with that too. But, we're building a whole world in Carnival Row, where here it's okay, we already kind of know the world of New York in the 80s, the crack cocaine epidemic, the ghetto area. We already kind of know that just as people that live in the world. So it's like, you know, based on this episode alone, it would probably be more like a C plus, thing. But I understand we've got to build it. But I just, Compton did everything better than this. And look, I like NWA's music better than Wu-Tang's music. So does that have anything to do with it? I don't know. Maybe I'm interested more in the NWA story. But I think anybody would say 10 episodes is too much for this, which, is why I'm sure my friends when they were watching it, were posting on Facebook, oh, Wu-Tang's starting to get good, or whatever. Yeah, because the first couple episodes, I'm sure, were a little boring. So, all right. So there you go. That's the show for the week. Next week, I'm going to be back with... I know I'm going to review the M. Night Shyamalan show, Servant, which has just surfaced on Apple+. I think there's a couple new things on Netflix to watch. The broadcast networks, I think, aren't going to really roll anything out until January. So until the end of the year, it's going to be, I think, all pretty much streaming stuff, maybe a cable show here or there, but mostly I think it's going to be a lot of streaming stuff, so as it's been the last couple weeks. So, there you go. And if there's time, like if it's a light week, I would like to tackle some of those other like summertime shows that I wasn't doing the show for. Four Weddings and a Funeral was up there. Also, The Boys. I've heard The Boys is excellent on, I believe that's on Prime. So, I want to get to that at some point as well. Hopefully before the end of the year, But, maybe I'll do a whole episode of just, like, playing catch-up kind of thing. But a lot of stuff on the channel. There was no Connors episode this week. So next week I will have the fall finale of the Connors to review for you. And then a 6-week hiatus on that. But Frasier Friday coming back. We're going to do an episode of that this week. Food Fanatics, I have one recorded for you. Dan does Disney. Merlin and I recorded Bambi, so I'm going to post that hopefully soon as well. So a lot of stuff going on the channel, and I love hearing from you guys. So if you watched any of these shows or are intrigued or anything, or tell me who you think would be a good Oscar host if you don't think Tiffany Haddish. Let me know all those things. Just comment below, and of course like and subscribe and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.